This is Dan Wickwire, and in this session we'll look at question number 190 in my book, 200 Questions About the Bible and the Qur'an. The question is this: did Haman live in the same time period as Moses and Pharaoh? No, according to the Bible, but yes, according to the Qur'an. Now, Haman, he lived in the 5th century BC. He was a high-ranking official, what they call a vizier or a prime minister, and he was under the Persian king Ahasuerus, commonly identified as Xerxes I, who reigned between 486 and 465 BC. Haman, he's the guy that plotted against the Jews. He wanted to wipe out the Jews. This plot against the Jewish people occurred around 473 BC. It was in the Persian capital of Susa. Now, let's look at Exodus chapter 2, verses 9 to 10, to get the context of this. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." So Moses is living at the time of the Pharaohs. The Pharaohs, they lived around 1,000 years prior, or actually the Pharaohs lived around 1450 BC, but Haman, in the book of Esther, lived 1,000 years later during the reign of Ahasuerus, or King Xerxes, between 486 and 474 BC. So now let's look at the verse in Esther, Esther chapter 1, verses 1 to 2. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel. So this is giving you the location and the time period during which the book of Esther was written. And Esther chapter 3, verse 1 says this: "After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, who advanced him and set his seat above all the princes who were with him." Now, the Agagite, it says that he was an Agagite. Haman was an Agagite, and the Agagites are the descendants of the Amalekites. And actually, in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 to 19, God had told the children of Israel to kill all of the Amalekites because he knew that they were going to be a godless people full of idols, idolatry, and they were going to be the enemies of the Jews. And so they didn't do this, and this is what happens. This guy Haman, who is an Agagite, descendant of the Amalekites, he tries to murder all of the Jews in the area. He tries to get the king Ahasuerus to issue an edict to kill all of the Jews. So the time period between Moses and the book of Esther is 1,000 years approximately. Moses is around 1450 BC. King Ahasuerus is during 486 to 474 BC. That's like a 1,000-year gap. Moses lived during what they call the New Kingdom period, and this is there's an early date and a later date. The earlier date would be 1446 BC, based upon biblical chronology of 1 Kings 6:1, during the 18th dynasty. The later date would be 1250 to 1213 BC, during the 19th dynasty, with Ramses II as the Pharaoh. So Moses was probably born around 1393 BC, and the Exodus took place about 80 years later. So that's the chronology of the Bible. However, Muhammad, because he was a Ummi, that means he was an illiterate, he lived during what they call the Jahiliyyah, which means the age of ignorance. This was the age of ignorance before Islam. And he did not understand the biblical chronology, and so he ends up placing all three of these men together in the same story. If you look at Araf 7, 157 to 158, he's got Moses and Pharaoh and Haman, all of these people working together at the same time. Look at Qasas 28, 1 through 8 and 37. Surely Pharaoh and Haman and their hosts were ever sinning, and Moses, verse 37. So you got all three of these people, Pharaoh, Haman, and Moses, all in the same storyline. Ankebut 29:39, and Korah, Pharaoh, and Haman. Moses came unto them with clear proofs, but they were boastful in the land. They were not winners. Muhammad didn't understand the chronology of the Bible. He didn't understand who was living with who and all of that stuff. Mumin 40, 23 to 24, 26 and 36 to 37. And verily, we sent Moses with our revelations and a clear warrant to Pharaoh and Haman and Korah, but they said, a lying magician. And Pharaoh said, leave me to kill Moses, and let him invoke his Lord. I fear that he will change your religion, or will cause some mischief in the land. And Pharaoh said, O Haman, build for me a tower, that I may reach the ways. So again, here we see several places in the Qur'an that places Moses, Pharaoh, and Haman in the same storyline. And Muhammad, unfortunately, didn't realize that he was making a 1,000-year slippage in terms of his characters that he's putting in the same story. And so here's the question. Did Haman live in the same time period as Moses and Pharaoh? No, according to the Bible, but yes, in the Qur'an.